This is Molly Stillman with Rave Publications, and you are getting a special treat this week for the rAVeSMB tip of the week. This is my dear friend Lisa Sullivan. I'm going to let her introduce herself in a second, but she is fabulous and like queen of awesome in the social media realm. But we are live from a really fancy place. I feel like it's kind of like highfalutin, but I'm just kidding. It's not. It's awesome. The beautiful Sienna Hotel in Chapel Hill. We just had a little bit of lunch, a caprese salad of mozzarella and tomato with the balsamic vinegar. So good.
Scrumptious.
Scrumptious. So if you're ever in Chapel Hill, you need to visit the Sienna. You can stay here. So if you're ever in town, so if you're in town visiting, you can stay at the Sienna, or you can have dinner or lunch at Il Palio. So delicious. Anyway, so I'm going to let Lisa introduce herself. She is just fabulous.
Well, I'm excited to be here today, actually. I am Lisa Sullivan. I am digital media, and I do use the word Maven.
Maven.
Digital Media Maven on Facebook. I'm also the Director of Digital Media Marketing at Fonville Morrissey Realty right here in Raleigh. And all throughout the Triangle, I work for the corporate office, and so I'm all over digital and the social media space every single day.
Every single day. And so, you know, although I'm kind of talking to the AV industry, she's done just such a great job, and we've known each other for a couple of years ever since. She's one of the first people I met when I moved to North Carolina. And so I know kind of where her expertise comes from, and I love her ideas, I love her personality. She's just wonderful. So I thought this would be awesome. So we are going to start out because we are both talking about what kinds of things are really applicable for our industries. And whether you're in the real estate industry or the AV industry, the most common question we get, and you know, I think it's funny because we have this like very small percentage of people we interact with online, and they all know about social media. But the fact is that the majority of the people in our industries have no idea about social media, and they don't know how to get involved in social media. So over the next 5 weeks, that's right, 5 weeks, we're going to do one tip a week. We are going to do the top 5 ways to get started in social media. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty, down to the basics, and so I think you guys are in it for a huge treat. What do you think?
Oh, totally.
Totally.
I mean, if there's nothing worse than trying to get involved in this space, but you really don't have any place and any plan, any strategy to do it, it's our job to tell you, okay, here are some of our favorite top 5 reasons of how we got involved and what worked for us, and hopefully it'll work for you. And if you have questions or whatnot, you know how to get a hold of us later. So
feel free to leave a comment and ask your questions, and it might even inspire a future video. So the number 1 tip, this is not the number 1 tip, but number 1 in the top 5 ways is developing your strategy.
I think it is kind of the number 1 tip, because if you don't have a strategy to start with,
that's true,
then it doesn't make any sense to even get on the space.
Yep.
One thing that I see almost all the time, whether I'm talking to our agents or I'm talking to groups of people in the nonprofit world or for-profit businesses, I hear a lot of, well, I opened up a Twitter and a Facebook account because I was told to, or because the advertisement on TV said follow us on Twitter and fan us on Facebook, so I thought, well, then I need to do that too.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, folks.
No, that is not a good plan to just like start launching all these accounts because you think you're supposed to. So the number 1 thing is developing your strategy. And what we mean is you need to figure out who you're trying to reach. So who is it that is your customer? Are you an individual marketing to a larger group of people? Are you a large manufacturer? Are you a distributor? Who is your audience? Who are your customers? Who are you trying to reach?
And then figure out where they are in the social media space. There are all kinds of articles out there now that give you the top 5 social media platforms and the numbers there, generic demographics. You can also go to alexa.com. That's ALEXA.com for general demographic information as well. But really, you need to figure out where they are and spend some time in each of the spaces.
Yeah.
Spend some time in the spaces and do some searches and some queries for just general information to see, if I go on this space, is it really going to provide value to why I'm there and how I'm going to help these folks, because that's really what it's all about.
Exactly. So if you, for example, are a manufacturer, a projector manufacturer, I'm going to go AV specific. So you are a projector manufacturer for the education industry. So you're marketing to K through 12 classrooms and colleges and universities. So who are you marketing to? And get specific. So is it like males between ages 25 and 45, or is it females, or is it kind of anybody, or is it, who is working in that space? And then go on some of those resources like Alexa.com and figure out where those people are. And one of the really cool things that we've kind of learned in the last couple of weeks, and this is top of mind because we were talking about it this morning, is I think we've finally found a way in the AV industry to tap into women. The AV industry is dominated by men. Dominated by men. I mean, I think it's like 95% male in the AV industry. And so many manufacturers, distributors, integrators are having a really hard time, marketing to women or getting in with women. And since we launched this Pinterest contest, 95% of the people that have entered our Pinterest contest are women. And they are on there talking about technology, they are sharing about projectors, they're sharing about all this stuff, and we have 2 male entrants. And I think it's hilarious that in an industry dominated by men, the Pinterest contest is dominated by women. And so I think it's
cool.
I think it's really cool. I don't think it'll always be that way, but kind of here in the infancy stages, that is all of a sudden we've kind of figured out how to market to women in our industry that's filled with men. I think the Women in AV group is doing an awesome job, and I'm getting in with women, but I think that has just been one thing that's been really cool. So when you're developing your strategy and you're trying to come up with where you want to be, I think it's so important that you figure out who you're marketing to and then kind of come up with the list of, that kind of goes into number 2, so I will be careful without
don't give that away yet.
With overlapping number 2, but kind of figuring out what your strategy is for kind of communicating with those communities.
And I think too, you also have to consider your content within that strategy, because part of your strategy is who are your marketing, where are they located, but also what kind of content and time you want to put an effort towards it. Mm-hmm. If you discover that you only want to be on social media 7 hours out of a week, then break that down to an hour a day. Mm-hmm. Break that down even further to a half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the afternoon.
Yeah.
If you're a good writer, well then switch it up a little bit. Maybe 5 days of the week you're on there the half hour in the morning, half hour in the afternoon, but one day you spend 2 hours doing blog posts. Yeah. So you have to figure out what's going to work best for you based on all those different factors. And then also from our industry with real estate, I tell a lot of our agents to think of what niche makes sense for them within the real estate industry. So if they're into green living, talk about that. Mm-hmm. If they're into home design, talk about that. If they're into gardening and landscaping, talk about that. If they're into working with empty nesters, talk about that.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is you've got to figure out what your content is, how much time you want to spend on that content, and if it's going to make sense for the value you're going to provide to your audience.
And last point before we move on to point number 2 next week is one thing I always love to do as well is find your competition in social media.
Yes.
If there's a company, if you're a manufacturer, find another manufacturer that's engaging in social media and see what they're doing. See what's working for them, what's not. I mean, I love looking to see what other publications are doing in the industry. I mean, I don't necessarily think it's competition. I think it's kind of just coworkers, colleagues, however you want to view it. See what they're doing and kind of learn from them. Don't reinvent the wheel. Reinventing the wheel is the worst idea ever, unless of course what they're doing is not working. So.
Exactly. Find out what's working and what's not, what you like best about what they're doing, what you don't like and you're definitely not going to do yourself. But there's nothing wrong with looking at what others are doing within your space to see, grabbing some tips is not a bad thing.
All right, so we will see you guys next week.